Okay, thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Garry Trinder. I'm here today from Microsoft. I'm going to talk to you about collaborative apps in relation to Teams. So I'm assuming there's quite a lot of people that have had Teams in their lives over the last few years. It's driven quite a lot. I know it's been emotional. It's getting better. Um, Getting better all the time. Like I said, my name is Garry Trinder. I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft. That means that anything Microsoft Cloud, you can come and talk to me about. But really, I want you to come and talk to me about Microsoft 365 specifically, because my job is to empower all the developers in the world to be successful on this platform, which includes Teams and SharePoint, everything in Microsoft 365. So a little bit about me. I'm very new to Microsoft. I only joined a year ago. Up until that point, I was a consultant, developer, architect, working in Microsoft 365 for about 10 years. So it's something that I've kind of grown up with, which is a little bit strange now that everyone is using these products. Best way to contact me, you can find me on Twitter mostly, so that's my handle. It's not a spelling mistake. I do have 2 R's in my first name, just to confirm that. I'm lots of other places as well. If you do need to come and contact me, get me on the different socials that I'm on, pretty much everything, but I'm be hanging around. Please come and chat to me about anything, any questions that you've got. So enough about me. Let's talk about collaborative apps. So let's start with a quote, and the quote that I'm starting with is from the boss. So if anyone either attended, you might have attended the Ignite session in Manchester, or actually caught it online. So Satya basically in his keynote talked about collaborative apps. So he's talking about collaborative apps representing a paradigm shift on how apps are being built. And I kind of agree with that. We've already seen examples of, influx of apps. Right, we've got so many apps that we have to deal with on our phones, on our workspaces as well. We need to start thinking maybe differently about how we build them. And it's this concept of instead of building one app and everyone is going to go to that app maybe, we're going to actually get into where users go. So you might be in Teams, you might be in Outlook, you might be in Office.com maybe. You're using all these different apps, but you're switching between them to get information. Wouldn't it be easier that if you're in Teams, you can just get some information as you're working, as you're sending a message? You don't have to jump to another system to pull that information out. So it's all about bringing these workflows and data and insights into places that you already go to. And just want to say about where this has kind of come from. So there's kind of been this shift because the technology has advanced. As we've seen over the last couple of years, when Teams first came along, it's very, very different to what Teams is now. It went through a huge period of change, and there's been lots of enhancements that have been added to enable us to actually start to look at creating new style apps. And these new style apps are built with this collaboration in mind. You're always working with people. We literally just had it mentioned about collaboration. Are we collaborating as individuals? Are we reaching out to people? But are the systems that we're working with actually hindering that? Are we not making it easy for people to make contact, to discuss things, to solve problems? So these apps are really designed to be kind of seamless, borderless, and again, meeting people where they work. Let's bring the information to them rather than you as an individual having to go and find the information. And like we said, we want to reduce this context switching. We don't want to just go, oh, we've got another problem, let's add another app. Let's reuse what we've already got. Let's reuse the investments in technology that we've already had. And really, let's think about this communication layer, this collaboration layer, and how we can bring that to our apps. So So how can we build apps that put collaboration at the center of our design? Well, I'm going to say it's not about just building things from scratch. I think there's 3 options that you have. Let's say you've already got an existing app and you just want to embed features into that. You want to enrich that existing application. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. You just want to add little touches and finesse it. You might want to bring your app actually into Teams. So as people are in Teams, they get to pull up the app or they can access information in that application through a Teams interface. And once then you've got that app into Teams, what next? Well, actually, could we extend this across other areas in Microsoft 365? So things like Outlook is an app where we spend a lot of time. Maybe Office.com where we're looking at files. Again, whilst we're in there, make it easy for us to get to the information that we need. So first, we're going to take a look at what it's like for embedding Teams into your apps. And we're going to start with an example. So this is an example app. So here you can see a CRM app used by a fictional company, Woodgrove Bank. And from this app, the bank's agent, Serena, can call external customers using Teams, send them text notifications, emails, schedule and join meetings. And she can also use the CRM app to manage her Outlook calendar appointments, chat, call, and meetings with team members. Now, she can see on a calendar that one of her clients, Matteo, is due in the bank for an in-person appointment. So we've got some SMS functionality here where basically the bank is talking to the customer through SMS, i.e. Matteo. So Serena's now sending a message to Matteo through the app. She's rearranging the time for their meeting. Oh, sorry, she's going to call him. There's a jump in the gun there. She's going to call through the app. So this is, again, through a custom application. We're actually going to make a call that's going to go to Matteo's mobile app. Now, he can't make this, so we're going to move into the chat. Really sorry, this has gone not so well, that demo. So I'm going to scrap all that, and I'm basically going to tell you exactly what happened. So basically, from within the application, Serena was able to communicate with someone external to that company. She was able to do it by using Azure Communication Services. This is bringing a layer of communications that can enable you to enrich your applications, bridge that contact. So from one place, you can make calls, you can make chats. Serena could also see her calendar. She could see other information about presence information as well. That is being driven by the Microsoft Graph. So let's quickly look at Azure Communication Services. So Azure Communication Services is a managed service from Microsoft. So it's an Azure service that you can just stand up, and it's designed basically to make it easy for you to go, right, we want to put some communication features into our application. And this is what it provides you with. It provides you with the ability to create voice calls. Either that's through your telephony system that you've got at the moment or through Teams. You can actually have video calls as well. So it's actually going to handle all of the complexity that would come with dealing with video. You don't have to deal with that. The service is kind of handling that for you as well. From the chat side of things, so there's a web interface chat, and what this enables you to do is to have web chat, so people on websites can actually then send a message in, get through to the customer service people, but actually, you can actually contact people in Teams as well. So you can actually, through one interface, communicate with both external and internal people. And that's really, really powerful for just keeping people in the same place. We're not jumping to different systems to talk to different people. We saw briefly about the SMS integration and email as well. So as part of this service, you get all that as default. You don't have to stand up another service to do this. Nice and easy. Like I mentioned, it also works with your existing telephony providers as well, so you can call out real numbers. You can use real numbers to assign to your agents. And there's network traversal as well. So yes, we're using a managed service, but there's also services in there, so you can actually run this these features from behind a firewall as well. So keeping that security in place for your networks, and again, making that really easy so that you can just kind of plug and play, essentially. Now, one of the things which I did want to mention, and this was a recent announcement at Ignite. So there's general availability for Teams interoperability. Now, this is really, really interesting because this goes beyond just being able to send a chat from an application into Microsoft Teams, maybe to a specialist. This is being able to stand up a meeting and have people using different clients all communicate in one place. So we can see there's various Teams icons on there. We've got people who are in the organizations, they're already authenticated, they're using the desktop clients, maybe mobile or the browser. But we've also got people using Teams clients, but are anonymous. They're not authenticated, being able to join the same Teams meeting. And then from the custom perspective, we've got our ACS enabled apps with all those features, the video calling, that are able then to connect into those meetings. So we have people using Teams authentication, so maybe you're already using Azure AD. But then there's another option of using your own identity as well. So if you have your own identity providers, you can bring those individuals into that meeting as well. So this is really interesting that you'll have people using custom applications, you have people using the Teams client on all web, mobile, desktop, communicating in the same place and be able to share that same experience. So how do we build these apps? Well, actually, it's been made quite easily. So ACS provides a UI library. And this UI library provides composites and components. So a composite really is just a collection of individual components to provide you with kind of scenario-based features that you can just simply drop into your application. Now, the components are those individual building blocks. So if you really want to go, complex, different layouts, have theming additional theming for your branding, not show specific features, then you've got that flexibility to do that as well. So here's an example of a composite. So this is one component that is basically dropped into a page, and it gives you, as you can see, it's kind of like Teams. You've got the chat in there, you've got the screen sharing, you've got video, you've got presenting, you're able to mute and turn things off like you would expect when you're working with one of these tools. And this is how you add it to your app. Really simple, just a single control. Yes, there's a little bit of setup, but actually you provide it with an adapter, which would be authentication. As I mentioned, that could be your own. Different themes, so dark themes, light themes, high contrast, so you're staying with accessibility. Different form factors. I showed the desktop version of that, but there's a mobile version as well. So if you want to run this on a mobile device, it'll then change its functionality. We give it an invite URL so we know which meeting it's actually joining, and then some options as well, just to say, well, what actually do we want enabled in there? Do we want to turn chat off? Do we want to, enable video? Those kind of things. Really easy to just add into your applications. Now, in that example, we also saw data coming from data that Serena was using, so being able to look at her calendar. And that's all driven from the Microsoft Graph. So the Microsoft Graph is the gateway to data and intelligence for Microsoft 365. So if you're using Microsoft 365, you want to get people information, you want to get calendar information, you're going to go through the graph through that single API. And there's a few examples of requests that you can actually make. So easily I can just get my, the current user's profile information, get their photo, get their messages, insights around what's trending around them as well. So any documents that people have updated, get those information as well, and we can put that into our applications. Getting tasks. One thing which I really like as well, and this happens quite a lot, how many people's calendars change on a regular basis? I bet that happens quite a lot. Things are always moving around. You can query, you can do delta queries on the graph, so you can see what has changed in a particular period of time. So that's really useful insights to say, oh, actually your meeting just moved, and present that in your application. And when we're talking about meetings and events, we've got the ability to say, okay, we want to find a time where everyone can make this meeting. So we can use an endpoint to gather those insights and then create the meetings themselves, add in attendees, and set different options. So how do you schedule a meeting? Very simple. You can just create a HTTP request, send a payload, and that will create your event. But you don't have to hand crank this yourself. So we do actually provide some SDKs to make it easier for you to work with the Microsoft Graph. Here's an example of the JavaScript SDK. So it's designed in mind that it's made easy to handle authentication. So you pass it an authentication provider. We send it the same payload as what we did in the previous example, but because we have a client, we've got a nice, easy way to be able to send that payload and create our meeting. One extra thing as well, using TypeScript, there is a package that provides you all of the typings for the objects that are in Microsoft Graph. So that kind of takes the guesswork out of, okay, am I passing the right property and what's available to me? So again, that's a nice benefit of using the SDK. Now, we want to render things. It's great getting data, but we've actually got to present this on the page. We've got another way of being able to do that, if you want to leverage it. So we've got the Microsoft Graph Toolkit as well. And these are a number of components that you can use that actually, again, makes it even easier to get the data. There's specific components that are provided, like this agenda example here, which will go off to the graph and it will pull back the next 7 days of meetings and group them and put them in a nice representation. Pick up all the theming, make it really, really easy. Now, if that looks too simplistic for you and you want to kind of know what's happening under the covers, then the Microsoft Graph Toolkit is designed for you to be able to extend it as well. So you can hook into this, add your own templates. There's actually a generic get component that literally will just go and get the information, and then you will do all the rendering on its behalf. But it's nice to have that flexibility. So if you want to get something quick and into an application and just see how people react to it, you can use the out-of-the-box component. You want some more, you can then actually start to develop further functionality to kind of hit those user needs. So we talked about embedding. Now we're going to talk about bringing an app that you've already got into Teams. So a Teams app is what I'm kind of going to describe to you now. Think of a Teams app as a collection of capabilities. An app could contain one of 5 of these capabilities. So a capability could be a tab, okay? You want to render your application as is inside the Teams interface. You can use a tab, which basically is an iframe. You can add a bot to that app. So you can add a conversational interface, so really good for speeding up repetitive tasks. You want to instruct a bot to do an action for you. That might be returning information. It might be, actually, I want to create a meeting, and it pop up a form, and you can fill that out. Message extensions. So when you're actually composing a message, being able to pull information from another system and then embed that information into your Teams message when you send that to add extra context around the conversation that you're having with someone. Then we have link unfurling. We've seen this on most platforms. You put on socials, this happens all the time. You put a link in there, it's automatically given a preview, and more context is given with that link when it's actually sent to the recipient. Now, in Teams, that could be simply a preview. Okay, it's some metadata that we're just going to show and render. But actually, we could go even further with that. We can use adaptive cards to send a card with actions. So if you want to, I don't know, say send a sales lead to someone in your team, and you do it through an extension, that adaptive card could have a call button on there to the customer, for example. Making it really easy for people to have the context and then go to the next step without having to leave their application. Activity feed, so notifications, we love them, we hate them. You can hook into the activity feed in Teams. So again, external events that are happening in your applications, you can bring them into Teams so that you could jump to that application quickly and understand the context for that. Now, all these capabilities can run in different places. So we have personal apps. So that is installed in your context. You can open that up from the left-hand menu. You could have a tab in there that just simply has your app. But it could also have a bot that could be almost like a personal assistant. You can instruct it to do things. You can add these capabilities into chats. You can add them into channels as well. Then you can also add them into meetings, and you can enhance your meeting experience as well. I find that really interesting. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of quick examples of two of these. So we're going to talk about the meeting extension. So the meeting extension, great for searching external systems. So we can see down at the bottom, we can click our little app button, open up a dialog. We can search an external system, get results, click the item, and that be injected into our Teams message to provide that extra context when we send that to our recipients. Again, I think we talked about this before. Yes, you could just send a link, but actually, thinking about collaboration first, you're helping the other person at the other end who's receiving that message by giving them as much information as possible to make that next step. Here's an example of a bot in a meeting. So we're adding this into the town hall meeting. And this bot you can instruct. And when the bot is invoked, what happens is we get an adaptive card, which basically asks, do you want to ask a question to the group? You select the question, everyone in the meeting gets a pop-up that will say, what's your answer? And you can then reply. Great way of just kind of adding a little bit of structure into your meetings. But it's a way, again, of going, okay, we've got a bot, but we don't have to just use it in certain scenarios. How could we leverage this in a meeting scenario and make our meetings better? Because I'm sure a lot of us are sitting in meetings quite a lot these days. Finally, talked about extending your app across Microsoft 365. So this is kind of new, it's kind of in preview, but this is the concept of taking your app now that it's in Teams and going, I want to show this in Outlook. And actually, I want to show this in Office.com as well. So currently there's two of these capabilities that are supported. We've got tabs, so you can embed your application inside Outlook. We've also got message extensions, which I really like. Message extensions, so the same functionality that you're going to get in Teams can then be added into Outlook as well. So you can have this rich injection of information into your emails. And this is just one code base. It's the same thing, just running in different places in different contexts. So just to kind of wrap up, so we're on time. So you've got different options with Teams. You don't just have to build a Teams app and bring everything to Teams. In fact, don't do that because it'll be a waste of time, and I don't want you to waste your time. what I want you to do is think about how you can embed some of this functionality in your existing apps through Azure Communication Services. How are you going to be able to leverage that Teams interoperability to streamline those conversations between your customers and your internal workforce? Think about how you're going to bring your applications that you've already got to those extensibility points in Teams. It was mentioned earlier about removing the UI, but the data is still important. Teams is a great use case for that. Through those message extensions, you could still get valuable information and inject that into your messages. And then finally, extending. Once you're there, where next? Where your workforce spending most of their time? Actually, would Outlook be the next place that you'd want to leverage that app? So I want to leave you with a couple of resources. So we do have some on-demand training that's just gone live. So if you have an existing app and you want to learn how to go through the steps of basically adding that into Teams, going all the way through to building message extensions, meeting apps, and actually, if you're an ISV, how you get that app into the Teams store and monetize it as well. That is a module that's in this online training. And lastly, if you do want to start looking at building Teams apps, maybe you've not done it before, best place to start is Teams Toolkit. So this is Visual Studio Code extension. So if you go to the marketplace, search for Teams Toolkit. This basically will provide you with the ability to create, debug, deploy, and publish apps into Teams at zero configuration. So you can create an app from a scenario, hit F5, and everything will be provisioned in the background so that you can start developing. Makes that really easy to get going. And with that, if you have any ideas about what you're going to build next, then definitely come and talk to me. I'm really interested to see how you're going to be able to use these capabilities. So yeah, I'm around. Please come and chat to me. And thank you very much.